Todd Nief, the owner of South Loop Strength and Conditioning. I coach CrossFit athletes primarily who look to compete in the sport, as well as a lot of folks who are just looking to get in better shape, look good, feel good, all that type of stuff. So for myself, I do a lot of continuing education courses that I don't necessarily belong in, that are primarily directed at physical therapists and chiropractors. And I enjoy sort of putting myself in situations where most of the people in the room know a lot more than me, especially about things like movement correction, that type of stuff. So there's a lot of carryover in terms of understanding proper joint positioning, long-term changes in soft tissue, things like that, in terms of improving performance and preventing injury in a more performance-based setting. And even though we may not be doing adjustments or soft tissue work on people, we can still learn a lot from attending these types of courses and then trying to distill the information and apply it to movement correction, injury prevention for our athletes, and just long-term development of clients. I think one of the things that's very interesting is there's a lot of subtlety in terms of proper joint positioning, as well as proper balance across musculature relative to stabilization, right? Trying to figure out when something is hypertonic, when something is excessively dimpling, something like that, and learning to be able to see that. And then, in a performance setting, you're not just going to be like, oh, hold on, like your traps are hypertonic, like please stop, and you're not just going to like rip the bar off someone's back, but you can start to pick out these little subtle stabilization strategies and compensations, and they may or may not make a difference, but if you can start to see it, you can at least decide if you want to work on it or not. I think there's two main areas that we can probably apply a lot of this stuff. With clients who come into the facility, we do an initial assessment and consultation with them where we take them through a movement screen. And generally, we're looking for major issues. Like sometimes you catch something where it's like, sir, you have a herniated disc probably, like please go see a doctor rather than coming here to do deadlifts. Like, what are we doing? But other times you catch more subtle stuff where it's not necessarily, a major injury or a major red flag, but you see, some little movement issues or something that's like, kind of a nagging issue for someone with going overhead or something like that. And we do try to give people stuff to work on with that, corrective exercise, self-myofascial release, things like that. So a lot of the grip approach techniques are very applicable there. It's just like, all right, cool, maybe I don't like the way that your scapula stabilizes when you do this. Let's go through some patterns on the floor where you understand how to stabilize properly and see if you can then translate that over into, longer term stuff. And I also do a lot of individual coaching of athletes. A lot of these folks, even though they're performing at a high level, have a lot of compensatory patterns, and we'll do a lot of individualized work with them in terms of trying to get, proper scapular stabilization, good mobility through the lumbar spine, getting them out of extension, things like that. Take a lot of different physical therapy types of courses. So, I have experience with DNS, I have some experience with PRI, I've taken a lot of the functional movement systems courses, and so we use a lot of those concepts and kind of, sort of like the grip approach course, mix and match different things that resonate with us, that we've seen work that makes sense. So this is just, another approach that kind of pulls a lot of that information together, and particularly today's course is much more applicable and hands-on. And the other aspect too, like I said before, someone who's trained in rehab, who's seeing people in pain, sees stuff in a different way. So you pick out, watching the other people in the course pick things out, they'll pick on things that I would never think to bother someone about. So definitely improve my ability to see certain things. I think that a lot of those folks, at least if they're working with me, have some level of buy-in relative to understanding long-term movement progression, the difference between what you want to be able to do as sort of a strategy to max out a snatch versus what you want to be able to do as a strategy to like live your life day to day. So I think a lot of folks are already pretty bought in to kind of understanding proper muscle tone and good movement patterns and having a perfect range of motion at certain joints. But I think that one of the things that is tricky with a lot of those people is getting for them consistent progression over time, right? They may understand it, but they're like, okay, cool, I want to roll on the foam roller. Am I fixed? No, this is stupid, right? So trying to get, at least for them, a clearer picture of what does the process look like in terms of what kind of changes can you expect to make with soft tissue work, what kind of changes can you expect to make with corrective exercise, and what does the balance between the two look like, and how do you then progress that over time to actually make a change in your patterning. massively valuable to start to take courses that are outside of your area of expertise, right? That a lot of trainers will, if they need CEUs, they sort of have the standard CEUs that they'll pull from. But putting yourself in a situation where you may be uncomfortable, or you may have to learn more, where people are using anatomical terms that you may not throw around on a daily basis, that's a massive opportunity to grow as a trainer, right? That you can pull a lot of information from that ends up being applicable. You do have to synthesize it and sort of figure out how to apply it, but I think that's a huge plus when people can take that step outside their comfort zone. So I think that this type of course is awesome for someone who's training, and again, it's something that for long-term development, I think people are going to start to see that you need to have this sort of global approach to understanding movement, to understanding what's appropriate and what's inappropriate as far as stabilization strategies and things like that. That you can get anyone results by just sort of kicking their ass, but if you want to develop people long-term and you want to keep people long-term, not just the ones who sort of survive whatever you throw at them, that you have to have some understanding of movement patterning on a global level.